Let's check in with Japan, though, because Japan has increasingly been talking more and more about Western censorship of their entertainment. And I'm glad that their creators and industries are taking notice. And it's, again, the creator of Love Hina. Like this guy's on the level. Yeah, Ken Nakamatsu. The Love Hina mangaka warns of rising pressure from foreign markets to introduce political correctness into manga. Now, I personally don't think it's going to be with manga that big of a deal because with anime, they could very easily wreck that industry because anime is seeing a lot more money coming in from overseas early in the process. But manga's a different story because when we get the manga here, we're getting the second printing. Manga makes the money it needs to continue off of the magazines, which are really only sold in Japan. We're a secondary market. Now, unless Shonen Jump starts releasing their weekly magazines in the US somehow in English, like day and date with Japan, I don't see the West ever becoming nearly as important for them, at least in the short term, like in the early on in the process with manga, as like, say, something like anime could. So we still have that going for us. And even then, if the absolute worst case happens, if the West decide, if they do succeed in taking down Japan, wokeness is on the way out in the West. We're still dealing with like some of these corporations in entertainment, in video games, in Hollywood. A lot of these decisions are made like 5+ years in advance. So we're probably going to see at least half a decade more of woke garbage as they have to meet contractual obligations. Or they're like, fuck, we already wasted all this money on this garbage. May as well put it out and see if we can recoup some of that. So we're going to see a lot of woke stuff just as the pipes are being cleaned. But it would actually be kind of funny if Japan was successfully corrupted and went woke right as the West is getting over it. And then us indie creators would have access to the entire manga market at that point. Because you got this giant manga buying audience, like billions and billions of dollars a year worldwide, that would no longer be getting served what they want if Japan got woke. That's a business opportunity for me. Like if I legit saw that happening, if I saw Japan was about to bend the knee and get woke, I would actually take the risk and take out a giant business loan just to make sure that I can have the work speed and the distribution in place to start making mad money off of these manga readers. Because I'll know that they're about to be sorely disappointed with manga, and they'd be looking for something else to read. And I need to make sure that I have plenty of content ready to go for them. I would take the risk at that point. So mangaka Ken Nakamatsu, perhaps best known as the mangaka behind the extremely popular Love Hina series, recently shared his concerns regarding the rising pressure from Western markets to introduce political correctness into manga and the possible negative effects such a push could have on the creators and fans across the medium. Yeah, so if you get woke, you might get some short-term benefits like via a Hollywood deal, but you're going to lose all your fans. Like your whole audience will be gone. What I'm saying is if you're going to sell out, make sure you get paid so much fucking money that you don't have to work anymore because your money's going to dry up after that one big payout. So a vocal and outspoken anti-censorship critic in his own right, Akamatsu broached the subject of political correctness during the opening panel of the recent manga artist Mirari conference, an online event held last December wherein various manga creators were invited to discuss their thoughts on the state of the industry and their outlooks for the future. According to a machine translation of Logme's transcript of the panel, when asked for his thoughts on manga in the overseas market, Akamatsu laughed and responded, "In short, it's politically correct." So one correction here, though. The audiences in the West like and want manga as it is. That's why manga is outselling the garbage we have here. If you listen to the worm tongues, like the fucking snakes in the Western localization market, and change it to what they say the West wants, you're going to go bankrupt. If you start producing the same garbage our companies are here, we're going to do to you what we did to our local companies. We'll stop giving you money. Now, political correctness, external pressure is coming, such as the pressure to introduce political correctness into manga and movies, the mangaka added. That's dangerous, isn't it? So, Japan, if you don't want this, if you don't like this, you can fix this in one small step. If you see even a hint of wokeness in a manga, drop it immediately. Send a very clear message to the corporations there that you will not tolerate even a smidge of wokeness. Because if you accept even a little bit, if you give an inch, they'll take a mile. So you absolutely have to put your foot down. If you start seeing all like blatant diversity pandering, if you start seeing like all the alphabet soup stuff going above and beyond like the Yuri and Yaoi you already have, if you see social activism being inserted into your manga, stop, just drop it completely and never look back. These bean counters running the show there, they need to have a hard data set to look at. They're going to have to be able to look at the sales numbers and see, oh, we had 50 million and then we released the woke volume and we dropped to 50,000. What could have possibly gone wrong? That will stop this in its tracks. But unfortunately, I know damn well fanboy's going to fanboy. It's going to happen, unfortunately. Now, on the plus side, on the anime front in particular, we have a lot of positive feedback from interspecies reviewers and Shield Hero and Redo of Healer and Goblin Slayer. All these anime that Western critics in particular have been trying to smear ends up becoming a massive financial success. So more of that type of stuff gets made. We just need to keep up that fight. So Akamatsu then explains, so far when Japanese manga is at the stage of looking at the world, there's a pressure on the scene to meet more global standards. But when you're still in the production of that manga, you got to remember, it's the Japanese magazine sales that determine which manga continues and which one gets canceled, all right? So if you don't appeal to your own home market, your manga is never going to have the chance to go international. So I'd like to have manga artists unify their opinions to some extent as to whether such things are correct or not, he continued. Unfortunately, all the West has to do to win the manga market over is flash more money than the market currently gets from their customers. That has sunk so many industries in the past. Yeah, however, when the sales of works that have become globalized and have no sharp edges are good, they end up saying, oh, political correctness might be good. Luckily, that hasn't happened yet. Thankfully, it's the most politically incorrect things that end up selling the best. So the veteran mangaka statements were echoed by co-panelist Takuma Kobayashi, a representative director of publishing house Number 9 Incorporated, or Number 9 Company Limited, I guess, who similarly opined, regardless of the company, I think that freedom of expression should be respected in my personal opinion. Okay, look at it this way. This is a business opportunity for you. If you don't let your company get woke while all your competition does, all the money will come to you. You will make all the money that your competition just threw away. Look at it that way. If you see a competitor starting to get woke and add political correctness to their content, that's when you need to look at your own lineup and say, hey, we don't have anything that's pretty close to what those guys are ruining. Let's hire somebody. Akamatsu later remarked, if you don't go abroad, the political correctness problem isn't a battle at all, which prompted Kobayashi to share his personal idea that I don't think a series will sell that much when it comes to selling itself as politically correct. This guy fucking knows. I think this guy must know that no one actually wants this garbage. It's just a few activist terrorists on Twitter. That's it. All right, we're going to have to take a little bit of a segue. So Merry-Go-Round made a very good point. Talking about flashing money at the creators, would the West really pay these creators more? We've seen recently just how much these pros get paid by DC and Marvel. Is it more than Jump? Nah, dude, you got to look at it this way, man. Marvel and DC pay the people here nothing, but if they had an opportunity to take over manga, oh, you bet they would pay these mangaka way more. That's how Marvel keeps getting their like superhero stuff into Shonen Jump. It's not on merit. They pay for it. They pay big bucks for a big name mangaka to waste their fucking time on junk Marvel IP. And they pay Shonen Jump to waste their page space on that junk. And to be fair, as long as the Japanese have like full creative control of it, they can actually make it good. But I'd rather see them doing original work. They're just going to do that more. I mean, at least until their money runs out, because you know that they're going to go broke if they continue being woke. But still, what I really want to happen is I want at least one major, not just some minor like indie company. I want a major Japanese company to go woke because they're going to go broke. They're going to have such a financial disaster on their hands that nobody else will dare try that again. You're going to have at least one company that buys into this garbage and says, oh, we're going to politically correctify all our stuff. We're going to remove all the controversial things. We're going to make everything dumbed down to the lowest common denominator. Oh, we're going to make all the money then. And they might get one or two Netflix or Hollywood deals out of it. But then they're going to realize they lost 99% of their audience. And all of their competitors are going to notice they now have a giant boost in their audiences. That's the best way we can send the message. It has to be a like top 10 global IP. Like imagine if it was One Piece. It's not going to be because Oda is too based for this, but I'm just saying, like, I'm using One Piece as an example of how big of a failure it would have to be. It would have to be something that's like close to One Piece's level of success and international fame. Like Pokemon, Boruto, something really big like that. They need to become politically correct and then just disappear because their audience vanishes. That's what will be required to send the message permanently. At this point, manga that was released without being conscious of political correctness can not be read due to political correctness problem, said Kobayashi. I think this is a mess, like a fire. No, so this is another problem, actually. How they're actually worried that, if it's not politically correct, we won't get any Western audience for it. Again, proven wrong with all those controversial series I've mentioned time and time again. Your only obstacle is the Western localizers. That's it. If the Western localizers refuse to localize your manga, do it yourself. That's actually what we would prefer. Cut out the middleman. Do your own English translations, and we will gladly buy them directly from you. You can release whatever you want. You don't have to worry about the fee-fees of your Western localization teams. Recalling how he had heard that the excitement of Hollywood movies is generally decided by script doctors and scenario doctors, Akamatsu joined. From now on, I'd like to release various blacks and whites with political correctness in mind. Yeah, he went into what I said at the beginning of this article, actually. Yeah, he's pretty much saying that, you could get a Hollywood deal, you could get a Netflix deal, sure. If you go politically correct, it'll increase your chances of that. But make sure you don't do that unless you have fuck you money. Unless they give you such a big payout you never have to work again, that's going to be the last move you make with that IP, so make it count. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of money in the short term, but all your customers are going to walk away. It may be the same no matter what you look at, like the Avengers conceded Akamatsu. I don't know, but after all, it's a hit. Well, the Avengers is probably the last billion-dollar movie that's ever going to be made. So there's that. Hollywood's dying. Ignore them. The Western comic industry is dying. Ignore them. You're on the rise. Don't fuck up. You've gotten to where you were now. You keep improving. You keep getting better by doing things your way. Why would you listen to the failures? You are doing everything right and you're seeing success because of it. If you are really so stupid that you start taking advice from your failed competition on how you should do business, honestly, you deserve whatever you get. In turning to the debate of mass appeal versus artistic authenticity, Akamatsu observed the one that hits may go to Hollywood, but it's better to have freedom of expression. Now, this has always been manga's strongest suit. The best part of manga is no matter what you're into, there is a manga for you. Not all of it is going to be a big hit. Not everything is going to be Shonen Jump. Some manga is going to be just fine with a couple thousand regular customers in a niche audience. You'll be okay. But if you stop making those niche IPs because everyone is trying to be the next Avengers, you're going to end up just like in the West. Remember the MMO rush in the early and mid 2000s in gaming? When World of Warcraft hit it big and they had like 13 million concurrent subscribers, and then everyone was just abandoning all of their own audiences trying to be the new WoW, and they ended up bankrupting themselves. That's basically what's going to happen to you. If you're too busy focusing on what someone else is doing and what they have, and you stab your own customers in the back to try to become that, you're going to lose your existing customers, and you're not going to gain any of the ones you were going for, because they're going to look at you and say, oh, that's a cheap imitation of what I'm already reading. Why would I read the cheap imitation when I have the real thing? Think I'm dumb? That's going to be the fate of the manga industry if they go the way of the West. You're going to have like only Shonen Jump left making the mega hits, and everyone else is going to be gone. Is that what you want? Because that's what's going to happen if you try to follow the West. The manga is mainly about freedom of expression, and that's why it's so successful. And it feels like you don't give in to political correctness, noted Akamatsu, before questioning, is it a loss if political correctness works get overwhelming power? I wonder what that means. We decide that. We are the ones that make this fucking decision. We get to choose by voting with our wallets. And this is why I say, don't accept even a little bit of wokeness. If they concede even one thing, abandon them completely, because it'll only get worse from there. You give an inch, they take a mile. So you need to make sure these corporations and creators know no compromise. If you give them anything, we walk. And make good on that threat if they do, because if you don't make good on it, they'll never take you seriously. However, Kobayashi reassured Akamatsu that even if there is entertainment that goes against political correctness, it would be different if this current idea of political correctness remains the same 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years, and so on. And this is why all of those works are always going to be dumpster fires. All of this is going to be a disaster because if you make something for current year, it has no staying power. It loses all its relevance once current year is done. Meanwhile, we're focusing on making timeless stories. The goal is, in 100 years, someone could pick up Blade Devil and enjoy it just as much as they do now. They won't be missing any references. I've actually had to resist putting some into Let's End the World. If I could find a way to take jabs at political correctness in there and have it stay relevant 100 years from now, I'll do it. But that's a trap right there. You could go for a cheap shot in current year, but 10 years from now, nothing is going to make sense to new readers, and they're just going to blow you off. It wasn't even 5 years ago. I was told recently, Kobayashi said the possibility that this will become the standard for the future is not zero, but it may change again. It will only become the standard if you let it. But I got my own business now. If my competition gets woke and torpedoes their business, I'll be there to hoover up all their customers. So he concluded, that's why I think it's important not to win or lose in the short term, but to always create something you can be proud of as entertainment. Thank you so much. That is exactly what I'm trying to go for. Stop worrying about what everyone else is doing. Stop worrying about what your competition is doing, at least when they're making really bad decisions. I mean, you should know what they're doing. Maybe they'll be onto a success that you can copy, potentially. Maybe they'll be the canary in the coal mine for a failure, but you shouldn't be trying to clone them. So if the Japanese market in general turns into a clone of the West, it's going to be a disaster. You're going to end up just as much of a failure. Like, stop worrying about current year fads and start being more concerned about timeless entertainment. All of these so-called creatives that put anti-Orange Man messages into their IPs, all of those IPs are already irrelevant, and they'll be even more so with each president that goes by. These people's works will be more and more irrelevant, just like them. So you want to avoid that? Avoid current year politics in your work, because current year politics change as current year does. Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.